them. I'll look after them myself. No
That's
worries.
yours. Apparently.
One, two. We're missing something.
Just like, so just make the lasagna and then you can just throw it in the oven, 45 minutes over.
You can, yes, I will look for after. You can follow Mr. De Piro.
Okay, thank you.
Because the tour starts from there. I'll take care of that and I'll bring the driver here after the tour. So I'll join you in a minute.
Beautiful.
Mr. De Piro is the owner of the house.
Fantastic.
Hello.
Which country are you from?
Many.
Many.
United States, England,
Great.
Latvia. Would you like to go up the stairs? We're just about to start.
This is your guide. She'll look after
That's great, thank you.
you. She'll know all about the house. Hello.
Thank you very much.
Please, all the way up. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I can fit right in here. There's two in the church.
There's one I haven't seen, is that the heading from the back?
We can see it today.
It's up to you. It is very large, yes. All right, since we are such a large group, some of you will be going with the marquee and some of you will be staying with me. So,
You start? Yes, okay.
so the people who are on the landing, you could go with the marquee, and the rest of you can stay with me. So this is much better.
We're
Yes,
joining
more-
Mr. De Piro.
Can you more or less send me half? More or less half. Alright, okay, is that it?
Yes.
Now, listen. I think the best thing to do to make it better. Welcome to Casa, Roca, Picola. This house is more or less 400 years old. For the first 200 years, it belonged to the Knights of Malta. You've heard all about them. The Knights were divided much more into languages than into nationalities, and it was the Long of Italy that owned this house for 200 years. Italy was responsible to produce the Admiral, and this was the Admiral's house. From 1580 onwards. In 1780, the population had grown from 10,000 to 100,000, and our nouveau riches were now clamoring at the doors of some of the great palaces of Valletta and wanting to buy them from the knights. This was sold to a Maltese family in 1780. We are now the third Maltese family in this house. We are not a museum. We have now become a relic. All the other houses like Casa and Valletta are banks and offices and shops, and we're trying to keep this alive. From your point of view, here you will see Maltese ambition, aspiration, you will see our taste, our collections, and our bric-a-brac. This is real. We have a granny in the house who is 94 years old. The family is still here. Let's meet the family quickly. This is a family gene photographs put together in 1965. Some of us have changed very slightly, as you can see.
Oh, that's you.
We have a brother and 4 sisters. That's Granny, who's an old lady now. Her mother was a beautiful woman, and she was the daughter of an artist called Giuseppe Calli, and his works are in at least 12 churches in Malta, including Mosta with the huge dome. On this side of the family, my father died 16 years ago, and his mother is quite interesting for us because she was a collector, and I need to share one of her collections with you, which is over there. Here she is in 1897, and she was very keen to marry a 3rd son, and families were very involved in marriages in those days, and they said at least marry the elder son because he won't have to work. If you marry the 3rd son, he will have to work. And she said either the 3rd son or nobody. And the 3rd son was sensible, and he went to university. And as he was there, during his course in medicine, somebody came along and said, now look, if you take this seriously, you can go to Nova Scotia and you can become an officer in a British regiment. And he thought it was a good idea, and he accepted, and he joined the King's Liverpool Regiment as an officer and was sent to South Africa. He was the only Maltese man in the famous battle, the Siege of Ladysmith. And when he came back, it was 1901, and the family had changed. He found that his elder brother was dead, his second brother was becoming a priest, and he would be the heir. Not just yet, another 15 years had to pass, but Granny becomes more financially confident, and she starts to collect miniature Maltese silver from the 1700s with the marks of the knights. If you analyze these, some of these items, which we call balsamini, from the word balsam, they held balsam, some of them I think are connected with love. If you want to give your girlfriend the first present, not too compromising, maybe you give her the flowers. When you get more ardent, you can give her a heart. And finally, that one, the two little hearts on top. One with the arrow, mal d'amour, the pain of love, and the other with fire, which I think I do not need to explain to you. Before she died, she said, "Do not divide my collection, please keep it together." And it's because of her that this rather very special collection is still together, and we can enjoy it.
Oh, what is balsam?
Balsam is, you've heard of vinegar balsamic. It is
okay.
a very special scent which they also used sometimes. That item over there is a boîte de ponche, also made in Malta. These are Maltese pieces. In the 18th century, after you'd had your fruit or whatever, they put this sponge in there, which would be covered in some kind of scent, eau de cologne or balsam or whatever, and you wash them.
Okay.
Let's go and see some more.
These things on top here, are they buttons or cufflinks?
Those are 18th century buttons.
Buttons, that's what I thought.
Yes,
Beautiful.
and they're quite early, most of them.
Mm-hmm.
And you put them fitted into the old waistcoats.
Of course.
This is Dura.
That is not, in fact, Dürer. That is Hans Baldung Green, who was one of the followers of Dürer in the Dürer period. That one is Dürer up at the top.
Right.
But Hans Baldung Green is very collectible. I mean, he's also quite important. But he used to sign AD.
He's signing
I know,
Dürer.
it's very naughty.
Naughty.
But I have to be honest when he asks me these questions. Come and see some more.
That's Churchill, huh?
Yeah.
Everybody else. The family, of course, has not always been in this house because in Malta they had this thing. I mean, in my grandmother's time, they moved house, I don't know, 4 times a year, I think. And they used to be in Valletta for the winter season, and they've been. Have you been to the Church of St. John's yet?
Not yet.
That's very beautiful. And I think we even get people from Italy sometimes who come, and whereas they have the greatest quantity of churches in the world, St. John's offers something rather unique because it's so international with all the side chapels from the 1500s. You will be pleased to hear I'm not going to talk to you about fans, but I need to mention lace, dentelle, spitzen. Lace is one of our great traditions, and we know through university studies that about 6,000 people were making lace in Malta in the 1700s, and not only women, also the men. And we could sell into Europe where the best was being made. And you need to ask me a question now. How did we get quality in this little island right down here? The answer is we were the last castle of Christianity in this part of Europe. After us starts the Muslim world. We had to be strong, we had to protect our borders. And also we were ruled by aristocrats. They were not the elder sons, they were the younger sons of the great families of Europe, because the elder sons stayed at home to inherit. If the system worked, they were dedicated to the poor, they were hospitallers. They also offered a different kind of career. If you wanted to be a good fighter, there was a big navy. If you wanted to be holy, you look after the sick. It made the place a popular place. Poor people also wanted to live here because the rule was decent and nice. The knights were not fighting each other. population grew from 10,000 to 100,000 quite quickly. Quality became important because of the King of Spain. The King of Spain had given Malta to the knights, therefore the head knight became a prince. And he had to have a palace and he had to have prestige. Princes don't like being laughed at, and so quality was pushed hard. This is a bit of background music for you before we see the house. But who actually are we in Malta? We are a mixture of all of Europe put together. That's the real, you only have to look at the telephone directory to see our names. We are a bit of everything. Come see some more. Remember, Valletta was a planned city. It did not happen slowly. It was a decision. After the Great Siege of 1565, the knights said, let's build a city, let's build the walls first. And when those were done, they said, now we're going to build the houses. And there were a lot of regulations. Every house had to collect water. There wasn't any water. Every rooftop in Valletta collects rainwater. Every house in Valletta has a well, a cistern. The cistern, as it was being dug, was used to build the houses. So there's a whole city under Valletta. My son has explored quite a bit of it. It's a bit dangerous. It's not open for tourism yet. This room is the only one left with the original stone floor from the 1500s. The chandelier comes from Bohemia, now the Czech Republic. The piece of furniture there is from the 1500s, and it's incredible to think how European. You know, there was a time I lived in Gloucestershire for a few years, and if you take away those Maltese crosses from that period, you know, Europe was very much, you know, the styles were very similar in many places at a certain level. I don't know if any of you have heard of a town called Caltagirone in Sicily. Sicily specialized, one town, and they still do, in glazing pottery. So we had potters, but those are the glazed ones with the blason, with the coats of arms of the period of the knights. Those happen to be of our family. Quick story, yes? Let's look at her. A strange looking picture telling us a story. We need to interpret it. She was afraid. The rumor is out. The pest, the plague is starting. She wants to do something, to pray. She's frightened. She says, if my family is safe after the plague, I will do something I don't want to do. She said, my picture will be painted with no vanity, sans vanité. The artist has to interpret this idea. She's a grand lady. So, kneel down. Nobody wants to be kneeling down. Black dress. Good idea. No rings on her fingers. A saint. A French saint, Saint Roch, patron de la peste. Right, let's make Saint Roch look a little bit dead, suggests somebody, so the picture doesn't look too nice. And put in some angels, make it more religious. Now, it talks to us, it makes sense. If you'll allow me one more time to interpret another picture over there. That's 30 years earlier, it's a Maltese lady, she wants to look her best. High fashion, 1760 in Malta. She must look fragile and delicate and dependent. This is a long time before women's liberation. Gloves, flowers, lace, embroidery, and she is young. Her hair is white. She is wearing poudre de riz, rice powder. In Malta they did not wear the wig, the peruke. In Malta they powdered their hair to look like everybody else, the girls, the white hair was in fashion. With these ideas of sophistication, a quick look at this piece of furniture. This is not what it looks like. This looks like a bureau bookcase. It's not. This is a chapelle portatif, a portable chapel. When it's shut, it's just a piece of furniture. When it's open, everything changes. Look, this is one piece. Then becomes a step. Inside is the altar. It takes 15 minutes to put it together. But there it is when it's ready. You can see the photograph. This was made in Malta in about 1770. We know from the coat of arms inside, which is the original one. This was added on. And I need another half a minute about it to talk about the decoration. Chinoiserie. Chinoiserie was that mixture of India, Japan, China, the Oriental, which was all over Europe as a fashion and had even reached Boston. There was chinoiserie there too, of course. Now, in Malta, we are trying to keep up with fashion, and we make mistakes. St. Francis Xavier is meant to be in Goa in India. Our Maltese artist clearly had not seen any Indians. So what he did was, he copied what he thought were Indians, which are on the beautiful Gobelin tapestries in the palace of the Grand Master, and he was copying the wrong sort. He was copying something from Les Amériques, the Americas. And so what do we have? We have a French interpretation of American Indians reinterpreted by a Maltese artist who had never seen any Indians. Not very good, but it's interesting to get the link. Let's go and see some more.
This would be for a private home, I guess. You'd buy this, this would be your chapel and you're in your house.
Yes. This meant that you did not have to dedicate a whole room to being a chapel.
I got you.
We do have a more permanent
You do,
chapel,
obviously.
but this came from another branch of the family.
Interesting ceiling too.
Well, the ceiling has been redone, to be honest. One of my nephews is now an architect. When he was a bit younger, about 10 years ago, he spent 3 months up there doing it all. But anyway, we tried to bring it back as much as possible. Even the colours on the walls are the original colours under 6 layers of paint, which we found.
I assume this is original floor too, right?
Well, to a point. A lot of the tiles were put in 1918, but the very old floor is the stone. Now, I don't want to take too long in here because we have a whole house to see, but the chapel is dedicated to a saint called Gaetano. The latest is 18th century. That's our grandfather's brother who founded a missionary order. He's the one who gave up his inheritance. Don't fall. Today, his organization, the MSSP, Missionary Order of St. Paul, there are 10 missions in Peru and Ethiopia, all over the place. He died in 1933. His mother house is in Rabat in Malta, where they have a lot of activities.
Rabat, that's in Morocco, right?
That's another one. That's another Rabat, yes. But we have
They
a
have a Rabat
here.
here.
And we have another Rabat in Gozo too, which is also Victoria, but it's also in
Interesting.
Rabat.
That's the capital of Morocco,
Yeah,
Rabat.
that's right. Anyway, today there are 10 of his missions which are active, and we're hoping he'll become a saint one day.
Yeah.
His brother inherited some land on the island of Gozo. Have any of you been to Gozo?
Not yet.
Well, Gozo, he was standing there in 1919 when a priest came out of the little chapel and said, "Is this yours?" And he said, "I think so, here's the plan." And the priest said, "Please, can you do us a favor?" He said, "We have pilgrims all the time, but we only have a little passageway through your land to get to the chapel. Can you give us a piece of land around?" And he said yes, and in just a few years the little chapel became a basilica called Tapino. It's all alone in the middle of fields, and it's very popular. It's a kind of Lourdes in Malta, you know. The Bishop of Gozo was so happy with the goodwill that this brought. People were making peace with each other, all helping. People were going at night to prepare stones for the workers so they'd find them ready in the morning. That he gave our grandmother, not our grandfather, his wife, the loveliest pair of golden earrings they could make at the time to say thank you. And here they are for you to see. They're not just filigree, they have the little granules, if you look very carefully, which we call gran spinat, which was something we learned from the Portuguese. And they're 24 carats, so they're very special. We do not let the girls in the family use them. Let's see some more.
For a special occasion.
This is one of 2 dining rooms, and this is very much in the Sicilian manner. Sicilian style of decoration is very fussy, it's very full, and we obviously being so close to Sicily, we took up a lot of this, decorations on the wall, plates, pictures, and always a sense of humour. A trompe-l'oeil, you can see the plate painted on the wall, a bit of fun, a little bit of Pompeii, which of course was, you see it in all the historic houses, a touch of, I don't know, something pleasant, a picture of love with a love letter, a picture of time with a clock over there. And here, this furniture was bought by the great-grandmother in Florence, not in Sicily. And it is a headache because it's not easy to use. You cannot get up and down off these chairs every 2 minutes. You have to be properly served. And so it's not used very much, but it's nice to look at. And there's another problem. It's not very easy to clean either. The family trees are Maltese families. We've been marrying each other in a small space for hundreds of years. We have relatives everywhere, and Malta is a very dangerous place if you like to gossip, because the word goes around very easily and you have to be careful what you say about people. We are extremely fortunate that we have preserved the family documents. Many families have thrown papers away, most of us do all the time, but not this one. This is a tiny little bit of it, and there are thousands of handwritten documents which survive from the 1600s, the 1700s, the 1800s. I'm going to tell you one quick story. It starts in 1703. One of our ancestors became procurator of wheat, which meant it was his job to buy wheat and corn. Everybody in Malta was planting cotton, and the Grand Master said, you cannot eat cotton. And so, take my ships and go and buy from Sicily. And he went off with, we think, as many as 10 ships in 1703, and when he arrived in Sicily, at a port called Licata, he wrote his first letter to Malta to the Grand Master. We got that letter because he kept a copy of it, 600 of his letters. This is the letter, very short. Your Highness, we have arrived safely, thank God. The people gave us a great welcome in your honor. The gold we are carrying with us is safely on land. Tomorrow we will start negotiations with farmers and agents. All he has to do now is finish the letter. He wants to keep his job, so this is how he does it. Please believe me, Your Highness, when I write to you, I am making you the very lowest of bows. I bet that wasn't true. The statue is a treasure. St. Paul was shipwrecked in Malta and bitten by a snake. The statue is from the 1600s and is the model in wood for a much bigger statue in the Church of St. Paul. That is a little bit later, that goes into the 1700s and is not a fighting ship, it is a merchant ship, but at a time when Malta had one of the largest navies of the Mediterranean in the 1700s. And it is she was called the Giannina. In this house, every October, we have a competition of lace. This year, 59 women took part and 1 man. And guess who won?
It's you?
No, thank you. The man won. It caused a bit of a problem, but the quality was fantastic. He made a tablecloth which took him 10 hours a day for 4 months to work. And he's a bit exceptional, I suppose. But still, the lace, the quality is high. That piece there was timed at 650 hours. We're going to cross in about 10 seconds. I'm just going to tell them this and a little more. You've got some more to say here. Okay, just a minute. Okay, very quickly. We've got chess over there. Those of you from France, this is Lalique. And it's a rare, complete set. I had the mayor of Lalique here, I'm very excited. Over here, I have bric-a-brac, bits and pieces, buckles, spectacles, decorations of the order, and a box of poudre de riz. From this. And here.
Over here, we have a painting by
This was made by a French knight. This was La Vache, the cow, and he was given this by the Grand Master called Pinto. These are Pinto's arms. De Vachon was here when he was a boy. he was 12 years old. And then he worked his way up to Captain General, Captain General of the galleys. And he was very popular. When he retired after 2 years, which was normal, he was 42, he dedicated his life to the poor, and everybody loved him. And he gave all his wealth to the poor, and he was always taking medication. And in 1798, when he was getting old, Napoleon came, and Napoleon said the wheat long, the 8 languages must go, and De Vachon said, non, je reste ici. And 2 years later, the British were in Malta. And the British and the French were not on the best of terms, not like today, which everything is all right now.
Sorry,
my little joke. We have a situation. The British met De Vachon, they liked him, they gave him a pension, they appreciated he had dedicated his life to the poor. Everybody liked De Vachon. And when he died in 1807, his funeral was described avec pompe, a state funeral to the Church of St. John's. If you like history, the 5th arch on the left is the Chapel of France, and there is one tombeau, one tombstone, avec la vache with the cow, 1807, which is a curiosity. Huh? Very unusual. Come and see something.
Tell what that is.
That is the coat of arms of the present family. That is the Piro. You see it everywhere. You see it again.
And the name of the family is?
De Piro. D-E-P-I-R-O.
La vache was his symbol? La vache,
La vache
was the symbol of his
was De
family?
Vachon.
Yes.
And the family, De Vachon, I've had 3 or 4 times. Yeah, De Vachon.
Ah, yes.
I'm not sure. Should we swap places?
Yes, I think we
Okay.
should. Wrong way.
There we are. I don't want to think too much about this room. You can see it's not used. But the bed is the marriage bed of our great grandmother.
Over here we
1860s,
have
it came from Sicily. She produced 9 bambini, 7 boys and 2 girls. They all lived. One is becoming a saint. And everybody notices this is a very lucky bed if you want to touch, but be careful because it works. That was painted by our great grandfather on the Malta side. I mentioned Giuseppe Cali, remember? And really, this was a period of very dark tragedy, like Ophelia. But she's not Ophelia, she's Martyr.
And he used to give a lot to charity.
Right, so I have a lot of nostalgia. Things we remember when we were young.
This night said, no.
You want to go
I
Walker?
have too much work to do. Here.
It's worth it.
So he stayed and he continued all his work and eventually gave everything away. When the British came, they found out there was a knight living with nothing. They gave him a
So what are you going to do? Touch that?
Like a
Since
flash?
he was so well loved by the people, he would honor of the
We've tried, after the war years, Valletta had had such a shaking, everything was coming down, and then everybody painted everything white and said how nice white was. And we said, oh, how much fresher. And now we've gone back to the colours. Times, the wheel turns round, as we say, we go back. Now, in this room, I mentioned babies a minute ago, the bed. We have a picture of a Maltese baby. We don't have many because of superstition. Have you heard of the evil eye, the mauvais œil, the böse Blick? People do not tempt fate, let well alone. If you meet a Maltese woman with a baby, you mustn't say too much. You can say, I hope everything is all right, but you mustn't say, what a beautiful baby you have, because she won't like it. If you meet me in the street, everybody will say, how are you? But nobody in Malta will say, I'm well. You say, how are you? And they say, not too bad. Good bad. The chandelier, of course, is Morano.
Yeah, we recognize that.
That's my sister, Mary. I'm telling you this because She's wearing a wonderful dress. The date is 1964. The bells were ringing in Malta, the bands were playing, the flags were flying, and we're getting independence. And the new authorities had to prepare a nice reception for the Duke of Edinburgh, who was coming with the documentation to hand over. It was decided there would be a grand ball at the palace, and with a bit of tradition, the ball will be opened by Fleur de la Jeunesse, flower of our youth, who would dance the minuet. 16 boys and 16 girls in costume. This is a few minutes before the start of the ball, and this dress is original. It's in our collection, and Mary was lucky to fit into the dress. Today my sister is 60 years old and she does not fit into the dress now, but that's the sort of nasty thing brothers say about sisters sometimes.
How many children did she get?
She has 2.
Great.
That's right.
Beautiful.
Much more of the used rooms you can see, and we don't have old balconies. There is something of particular interest, I hope, those of you from France. I need to mention that we have a picture of Manuel de Rohan, who was one of our most intelligent grandmasters. He even understood the revolution. You know, when he was dying in his bed, he was an old aristocrat, but he was heard to say, "I am only here because of the love of my people," which was unusual words from an aristocrat. These also might interest you if you like French things. These are national patrimony. These were on board ship of the Grand Master called Jean-Paul Lascaris. The Lascaris family are from Provence, and the Palais Lascaris is in Nice, and it is open to the public. There is his bateau ceremonial, the ceremonial barge, and the miracle is that these pictures are still together ensemble. They could have been divided over the generations. We have a British period when we have visitors like Walter Scott and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. That is a very rare picture indeed. And to the right of him, the woman over there. Ladies and gentlemen, I am very happy to tell you, we do not know who she is.
So she's not related, right?
I didn't think so, but I'm going to make... The last one is Italian. It is the Duca di Bergamo. Again, there is a funny connection, but I don't think you're interested in that. This is my daughter, Louisa, having a bit of fun. She's wearing the traditional Maltese cape called the faldetta. 15 years ago, an artist from the West Country came and he said, "I remember when I was young, people wore the faldetta." It had ballet and whalebone to make it wide. And my daughter happened to be here, and she said, "Would you like to see one?" And she put it on, she went to the storeroom, and when he looked at her, he thought of it looked like, he said, "Please, may I paint you?" And she said yes. And when he finished, he said, "I am 91 years old, and I never painted better." It's not nice to be able to say something like that.
Very nice.
The clock is a traditional Maltese clock from the early 1600s. Seulement une aiguille, only one hand. Don't look at the time, it's not working. And it runs for 6 hours and no more, which is not very good, but it was a lot of prestige in those days. Let's go and see something else. Here we keep a lot of ancestral pictures and members of the family as well. And what can I tell you to amuse you? This is the man who bought the wheat and the corn. He has to have 600 of his letters. Those are my dear parents. Granny is still in the house at 94, and this rather grand photograph was taken immediately after the coronation of Queen Elizabeth. They were in Westminster Abbey, and when they got up the morning afterwards, they both said, "Why don't we have our photograph taken? We've got all these lovely things with us." And they were all recommended a photographer called Baron the photographer. And when they got to him, it was 1953, he said, "Look, we've had to give you an appointment because you're going back to Malta soon, but I have never been so busy in my life. And if you don't mind, my assistant will do most of the work. I'll keep an eye on things. And out of the dark room to do the job came the assistant. His name was Anthony Armstrong Jones, who would become one of the world's great photographers and even marry the sister of the Queen. Armstrong Jones took a very formal portrait, but then Granny turns around in her chair, wants to chat with somebody, and this is where he was the real artist. He said, "Stop, that's the picture I really want." And there she is. If we go through the ancestors, I like to mention him. He was Malta's greatest dandy. He had the best moustaches in Malta, and he had the most beautiful garden in Malta, which is over there. That has now been destroyed. The beautiful tower, the Belvedere he built, is a roundabout for traffic, and there are bungalows all over the garden. My dear aunt over there went to Florence in 1930 to learn to speak Italian. And she soon had an Italian boyfriend who was very modern. He took her to be painted, and when the picture came to Malta, the family didn't like it. They didn't like her décolleté, they didn't like the makeup, so when the Italian boyfriend came, they didn't like him either. She never married an
But she's
Italian
very much
boyfriend.
like Queen Elizabeth. You
What
don't.
happened was she eventually married a Canadian who was very nice to me, and when she was 91 and was having Christmas with us over there. Can you just hold it for a minute? I heard her saying, her last Christmas, I heard her saying that I was listening to what she was saying. She still liked to talk about her Italian boyfriend. That is a very special picture there. We've got a Maltese girl from about 1735 exactly. She's painted for a marriage contract at the age of 4. And she's got a double chin to show she's healthy. And this is how it was. They would marry at 14 or 15, 10 years later. But the pictures would go after they are contracted for to the other family who are waiting. And this happened everywhere, all over Europe. Just with you in 1 minute, I'll be with you in a second. The piece of furniture is a lovely piece from the 1600s and is all Maltese fruit wood. There's orange, lemon, olive and carob. This looks very much like Habsburg, but don't think Habsburg. You must think Lascaris, who had the same coat of arms. You see it in the Church of St. John's. Now a quick look in here. I'm sorry, I'm catching us up.
Don't worry.
You know that the knights were hospitalers. They looked after the sick. They were dedicated to the sick. It made them very popular. We have something unique here. We have the only known set of doctor's instruments from the Hospitaller order in silver from the 18th century under the Grand Master de Rohan. All the others are lost or melted down. These have good marks. In the hospital, which they built when they built Valletta, they built the longest room for 600 beds. Every patient was addressed as my Lord with a bow, even if he was poor, because Christ said, "What you do for the least, you do for me." And listen to this. In their hospital with 600 beds, if you were Muslim, if you were Jewish, if you were Protestant, Catholic or Orthodox, everybody would be served on shining silver. And nobody knew at the time that silver was a microbe repellent, and that's why they got good results. Today in the hospitals, they're putting silver wiring into the curtain linings to get rid of these infections, and even on airplanes they're putting bits of silver where you touch a lot of things because it is a microbe repellent. If you're still interested in something medical, that is called, it's a Maltese piece from the 18th century. That is a tremblers, from the word to tremble. If you couldn't manage your cup, the saucer, the piece in the middle is stuck, the china is tight, and comme ça, you manage better. Let's get through this crowd.
All right, that's right. No me he acordado, no me he acordado.
I need to shut the door for you so that we can talk. Please come through, won't you? The dining room was added onto the house in 1918. It's a complete folly. It's a bit of fun. Art Nouveau, La Belle Époque, and we've kept a bit of humour. We brought back the sky, we rusticated the walls, and at the far end, behind the statue of Diana, you will see a perspective created out of the picture. That was done by our children without our permission. The upside-down glasses were used in Europe and in Boston. I keep mentioning Boston because things went over there very European. These were to wash glasses at table when you changed wine in the 1700s. It's my mother. You've seen her coronation photograph. It's in 1938 now, the time of her marriage. She's with us in the house now. My father, who died so many years ago.
Do you use this room or not?
Yes, not a lot. If we give a dinner party, we sometimes have it here. And on Christmas Day, on special occasions, Granny's birthday, that sort of thing. If you wait for me now at the top of the staircase, I have another story for you.
How generous.
Right. Let's go to the top of the staircase. Please. You can have the whole house on your camera, base.
You're so generous to share with you. So generous.
Your living quarters, they upstairs?
No, we don't have an upstairs. We live in the house, but down the corridor there on the right, behind this area, I have my private study, and we have, this is my wife. And we've got a television room and a little dining room here.
I'm just looking, the whole world came to see us today. Is there any way you can put a parrot in the cage?
Yes, all
Okay, and tell when we've done it.
All right.
Because he's eating all my dog.
All right. To bring this part of your talk to an end, I don't know if you want to sit on the ground. We've got the more shelters and things.
Yeah.
So it takes 5 minutes. But I need to mention something here. It's 1918, and electricity comes to this house for the first time. Grandfather has his new dining room. He's remodeled the staircase, but more important, electricity. He's so excited that he commissions that picture of Miss Electricity. It has negative and positive contacts. The wires come through the hands of the angels to the electric bulb. The lower angels hide their eyes to tell us the light is very strong, and she is the Malta flag, which is red and white. Now, to match it, they decided on agriculture. So the lower angel has the sickle, the old way of doing things by hand, and up we go into mechanization and modern times. And to finish this part of the tour, the engraving there of 2 dogs, large and small. After a painting by Lancia, which is now lost, the large dog was meant to represent the large aspect, and the small one but with the small. The large dog, I used to say, was the Saint Bernard. I was interrupted by a French gentleman who said, Monsieur, he said, that is not Saint Bernard. So I said, what is it? He said, that is Terranova, Newfoundland. I said, are you sure? He said, yes, Monsieur, I am sure. I am the president of the Newfoundland Dog Society. Something about my head. The small dog is a little more big dog. I cannot not mention him. He is Beato Gerardo, Blessed Gerard, who founded the Orders of Malta. He's looking after a patient, somebody who's been traveling, somebody who's tired, who has his stick. You can see the pilgrims' staff. Let's move on and go outside. And I've got to do something about the parrot. My my lovely boy. Come, my lovely boy. Come, my lovely boy. Such a good boy. Such a good boy. He's a good boy. Say hello. Say hello, you cheeky parrot. Say hello. Who are all these people? You're going inside now for a bit. Can we take you inside? Can you wait for me for half a minute?
Thank you.
Great, yeah, he's really good.
It's a wonderful
Oh,
family.
I'm jealous. He's competing with me.
Give you a run for your money, honey.
I love this in the courtyard.
Yeah. I was guarding your bags. My life.
This place is 200 years older than my house.
So how old was it?
My house?
This?
This is
16th century.
16th century. 16 what? Something. He
1570s.
said it was 400 years old is what he said.
Yeah. It's late 1570s, beginning of 1580s. That would be the date of this house. Nick, I have a complaint. Because they are preferring you to me now.
Nonsense. You're in very good hands.
Yeah.
This is my son, and he's going to take you downstairs to see the underground very quickly, okay? So, off you go.
Thanks so much.
We'll go down this way.
He's much like you. He's very much like you.
Oh, I'm sorry, he wouldn't like to hear that.
Yeah, well, he is. So,
I'll see you later when you come back.
Oh, you'll be here? Okay. I want to thank you. In the wine cellar. Oh, yeah, the foundations, okay.
Okay, so this is when they built the houses. When they built the houses in Valletta, the first thing they did was cut stone from underneath. And they cut quarries like this. Okay, and they used the stone from underneath to build the house. They built the foundation arches like this, and then they built. The law said at the time that you had to build the house with the stone from underneath the house. You had to build a very big well to store the water, and you had to build the house within 1 year. Okay,
Wow.
they were very strict. The city of Valletta had to be built quickly, according to the regulation. You submitted the plans. They'd say yes or no. You had to build it quickly. They were sure they were going to be attacked soon by the Turks. So Valletta was a very quickly built city. There were 10,000 Turkish slaves cutting stone to build the bastions. And
Turkish slaves?
yeah, and they were building, there were a lot of Christian slaves building places in Turkey.
Oh, sure.
So they were,
Istanbul.
in fact La Valette, who Valletta is named after, was actually captured for 3 years by the Turks before he, obviously, and his family ransomed him. They spent a lot of money to get him back. So he actually rode in a galley for 3 years, La Valette, and then his family, who were wealthy enough, they paid enough money to get him back. So anyway, so this is part of the construction of there's the restaurant up there.
So normally you need the whole footprint of the house dug down to get all the necessary stones, right?
Yeah.
So you usually get the perimeter and just They're big holes.
Well, I'll show you because there's a big well over here, and this is where most of the stone came from. So if you come through here, mind your head,
Do you still use cisterns here?
you can see them.
Wow, that's a big one.
Big cisterns.
It's like a basin. You could swim there.
So this is the original well of the house. There were a number of different points where water could be taken. Okay. Now, in 1939, when the bombs started to fall on Valletta, they converted this well into a bomb shelter. There are about 20 of these in different parts of Valletta. And what they did, when they found the very big wells, which are like the dome of a church, they would put a great slab of concrete, which was standing on, used to go right across, and then this room in the middle here was filled up with stone. So the idea was that if a bomb did hit the house, hopefully the stone here and the concrete slab, which had reinforced steel beams going through it, and a column supporting it underneath, would save all the people who were hiding at the bottom of the well, so the bomb wouldn't collapse. They then made a tunnel, which you can see the opening of there. It connects to another well underneath this house, and then connects to the stairs which go up there. Then they connected this to other parts of Valletta. So there was a network of tunnels connecting these big fortified concrete wells all over the city. This particular well just connects to the convent of nuns opposite, so the nuns could come down and meet and hide in here. There's the convent of St. Dominic, the monks of St. Dominic. They would also come here, and a priest would say mass here. There would be an altar set up. The older residents of Valletta remember coming down here, and they describe it very vividly. They say where the priest was. They all slept down here. In April 1942, there were more bombs dropped on Valletta than all of the bombs dropped in London for the whole of the Second World War. So Valletta was one of the most heavily bombed places in the Second World War.
Did the house get destroyed with bombs or not?
This house was okay, but they knocked down a house on the corner when there's a block of flats on the corner just there, and that was they rebuilt. In fact, a lot of families whose houses were bombed in the war, they weren't too upset because the government would then give them money to rebuild them, and most of them, rather than rebuilding their family palazzo, would build a block of flats, which made much more financial sense. And they could rent them out, and then they went to live in a villa. But so it wasn't. There were a lot of crocodile tears that they shed for the palazzo in Valletta, but actually, anyway. But Valletta got quite badly damaged in the war. Okay, so this is a 400-year-old well converted into a bomb shelter for the Second World War.
So it wasn't water down there in this big basin.
There used to be, the water was.
It was
originally water was stored down here. Rainwater was
and
collected.
it was this wide then.
Rainwater was collected at the update and then it would fill up.
Such a huge basin, yeah.
Yeah.
So it wasn't enlarged to become.
No, like this. Remember, there's
shelter.
only one natural spring in Malta, and it's not enough to give enough water for all the people in Malta.
Okay.
So if we were attacked, we had to make sure we had enough water to last the whole of the summer.
I see.
So it was essential by law that every single drop of water that fell on the city found its way into a well.
Okay.
A house was worth much more than it had a well.
Also listen to the court rate for the tunnels too, right?
Yeah. Okay. So this is let me show you the other tunnels over here. Okay, good. Okay, then this is there's another tunnel here which takes you just to the garden where we were before. The zigzag tunnel. The zigzag is on purpose to make sure that the blast, if there was a blast near the entrance, it wouldn't go through the tunnel and it wouldn't hurt anyone. It's just a small room.
Yes,
and it takes you to the garden.
it's
So
ridiculous.
when you want it, you just come through.
Okay.
So we call the end of his explanation, I think. Excuse me. Is that microphone? Yes.
No, we-
Okay. No, sorry. Please, feel free.
Thank you.
So we are now under the house, and when they were building Valletta, they realized they had a problem because there are no fresh water sources nearby. So they came to the mill, and every house had to have a
thorough operation. Well protected in my home.